Do you describe yourself as a tourist or a traveler? Your answer says not only a lot about your philosophy about going places in general, but also about your outlook on life at large. The first time I left the United States on a trip my dad had sent me on alone, he said, "Son, you're going to learn a lot as a lessons learned about how different things are in these countries you go to." And then after that trip, I knew that I was a tourist. I would focus on the ways in which people worked and ate and thought and lived very differently from the way I had been brought up. My microcosm was my microcosm, and I was a tourist. Going back later, I noticed to the same countries, innately, I would not focus on the differences. I would focus on similarities. Now, some of that is the difference between innocence, which makes us by definition in nature travel around as tourists, and experience, which makes us by nature appreciate and travel and focus on the H of humanity, the ways we're all the same. Yes, I believe in hashtag #MeToo and hashtag male and hashtag female, but experience taught me as a traveler to focus on hashtag human. If we all travel and we believe that as humans, we are organisms, and as organisms we are energy, and as energy we are vibrations, then as vibrations we are more similar than different in our hashtag humanity. I learned a long time ago that the first time we look at things and focus on the ways things are different, we have a tourist mentality. Sometimes that's important. Innocence, trying to have a USP or a unique selling point about a new brand and stand out, and being able to experience something for the very first time with fresh eyes, fresh heart, fresh mind. However, focusing just on differences ends up, I think, alienating and isolating. Focusing on instead a traveler mentality, the ways in which we're all the same, allows us to break down walls, take down barriers, and connect more through our humanity. And I learned that going back to countries and focusing on the way that, well, we all eat, instead of maybe this is a Japanese breakfast, and this is a Turkish breakfast, and this is a gluten-free, sprouted, organic, local, artisanal American breakfast, for example, can really be that tourist approach of different. And I learned that if we look at the ways that we're all having breakfast, then we're focusing on the bigger picture, our commonalities, and that tends to unite us. So I'm not here to say that my lessons learned is I was a tourist and I'm now a traveler and that's better. No, I'm here to say that sometimes we have to be aware of what shield or what lens am I using to look at this situation. Whether it's breakfast in a diner with friends in any country, or looking at a development program for a whole fitness regime, or if it's about just getting through a misunderstanding with a friend. Am I coming to this with tourist eyes and heart and mind, or traveler eyes and mind and heart, and focusing on getting to a better place because we're focusing on the commonality, our humanity, and focusing on the ways that we're the same? And there are times and places for both, but I'm definitely learning at 55 plus years to focus more on commonalities than differences. So I happen to work in fitness, and many times the philosophy of Pilates comes up. This guy, Joseph Pilates, who's dead, and like other people in other professions in the 50s, we've evolved in so many ways. For example, contemporaries of Joseph Pilates in the 50s, in dentistry, we're putting mercury in children's teeth. Well, we don't do that now, and we know more now than we did before. And we know more now about spinal neutral and what happens if you push and pull forcibly on someone's neck during movement. And we know more about educating people to take responsibility for what their spine can do in different planes of movement in a sequential order. All that said, I don't think we have to say that we teach Pilates the same as we did in the 1950s. Yet I hear so many people talk about the ways in which Pilates makes us different, right? Well, my approach to Pilates, or this certification school says, or this is the way we always have to do if we follow this certification method. First of all, the guy's dead. Second of all, we know more now. And third of all, we're usually on the floor in mat Pilates in a C curve engaged in a huge amount of flexion. So that's the traveler approach. We're focusing on body weight training in a couple different positions on the floor, focusing on spinal movements, right? The traveler approach is focus on the ways in which we're all the same to get better, instead of the tourist approach and looking at different schools of thought of Pilates and saying, well, this one's better because. Now, take the metaphor for travel and take the metaphor for Pilates and put it into any profession and anything we're doing, including relationships and disagreements and getting over hurdles and coming out of the woods. Do we focus on the ways in which we're different? And do we focus on the ways in which we're similar? Commonalities. That's what I think tends to heal rather than separate. With love in my heart and a firm commitment to spread wellness without walls, I'm Lawrence, expressing my gratitude to you for allowing me to share my lessons learned thus far with you. And I conclude this lessons learned by asking, sometimes is it a great idea to look at whatever you're going through, professionally at work or personally in your home life, and ask, am I adopting here a tourist mentality focusing on differences, or a traveler mentality focusing on the ways we really are united the same in our humanity?